Chapter 2. The Escape of the Dead. As John Carter and Powell ventured deeper into the Arizona hills, they could not help but feel that an inexplicable force was guiding their steps. The air was thick with mystery, and both men sensed that they were on the brink of an incredible discovery. Following their instincts, they soon came upon an ancient cave, its entrance hidden from casual view. With trepidation, they entered the dark cavern, their lanterns casting eerie shadows on the rough-hewn walls. As they descended deeper into the earth, they discovered a hidden chamber filled with ancient artifacts and skeletal remains. The room seemed to hum with an energy that defied explanation, drawing John and Powell further into its depths. In the center of the chamber stood a massive stone sarcophagus, its lid adorned with enigmatic carvings. The air around it seemed to vibrate with power, and John felt an irresistible urge to discover the secrets that lay within. As he reached out to touch the sarcophagus, a sudden gust of wind swept through the chamber, extinguishing their lanterns and plunging them into darkness. Moments later, the chamber was bathed in an otherworldly glow as the spirits of the long dead rose from their eternal slumber. John and Powell watched in awe as the spectral figures swirled around them, their ghostly voices whispering of lost secrets and forgotten knowledge. Among the spirits, John recognized the woman from his dreams, her ethereal beauty undimmed by the passage of time. As the spirits coalesced into more solid forms, the woman approached John and Powell, her eyes filled with a desperate plea. "Free us," she implored. "Break the curse that binds us to this place and let us find our eternal rest." John, moved by her plight, vowed to do whatever was necessary to set the spirits free. With Powell's help, John studied the carvings on the sarcophagus, searching for any clue that might help them lift the curse. As they deciphered the ancient symbols, they realized that the key to freeing the spirits lay in the performance of a long-forgotten ritual. With a newfound sense of purpose, they set to work gathering the necessary materials and preparing the chamber for the ritual. As the day of the ritual approached, the spirits grew more restless, their spectral forms flickering with an anxious energy. John and Powell, understanding the gravity of their task, steeled themselves for the challenges that lay ahead. Finally, the day arrived, and with hearts heavy with the weight of their responsibility, they began the ritual. As they chanted the ancient words, the spirits gathered around them, their ghostly forms growing more solid with each incantation. As John uttered the final words of the ritual, a blinding light filled the chamber, and the spirits were released from their eternal torment. The ghostly figures rose into the air, their forms dissolving into wisps of light that floated gently upward before vanishing into the darkness. As the last of the spirits disappeared, the woman from John's dreams appeared once more. Her eyes, now filled with gratitude, met John's gaze, and a radiant smile lit up her ethereal features. "Thank you," she whispered. "You have given us the peace we have longed for." With the spirits freed and the curse lifted, John and Powell knew that they had accomplished something extraordinary. As they left the cave, the sun set on the Arizona hills, casting a golden glow over the landscape. They had faced the unknown and emerged victorious, their hearts filled with the knowledge that they had changed the course of history and altered the very fabric of reality itself. Chapter 3. My Advent on Mars. As I lay prone upon the cold Arizona ground, enveloped by darkness, a sudden sensation swept over me, akin to the rush of a whirlwind. The last thing I recall was my body being consumed by an inexplicable, dizzying force. When I awoke, I found myself sprawled upon an unfamiliar landscape, bathed in a crimson glow. The air was thin, and a sense of disorientation overcame me. I struggled to comprehend the sudden change in my environment, wondering if I had been transported to another world altogether. As I stood up, I discovered that my limbs felt strangely light, and I had an uncanny agility. My initial steps were akin to those of a newborn foal, yet I quickly adjusted to the newfound ease with which I moved. I looked about the alien terrain, awestruck by the peculiar flora that surrounded me. Towering, lichen-like plants stretched towards the ruddy sky, while strange, bulbous growths dotted the ground beneath. With trepidation, I began to explore this strange new world, seeking answers to the questions that swirled within my mind. As I ventured further, I stumbled upon a shallow canal, its waters reflecting the coppery hues of the Martian sky. The sight of water brought both relief and a sense of familiarity to my weary soul. I continued my exploration, and soon encountered creatures unlike any I had ever seen on Earth. Enormous, six-legged beasts lumbered across the plains, with riders perched atop their broad backs. These riders were unlike any humans I had known, their green skin and forearms marking them as denizens of a world far removed from my own. Though I tried to avoid detection, my presence did not go unnoticed. The riders swiftly surrounded me, their weapons brandished menacingly. I felt a pang of fear, but my military training quickly took over, and I prepared myself for a confrontation. To my amazement, the creatures seemed as perplexed by my appearance as I was by theirs. Their leader, a particularly imposing figure, spoke to me in a language I could not comprehend. Despite the barrier between us, I sensed an underlying intelligence in their speech, and I resolved to learn their tongue in the hopes of fostering a greater understanding between our species. In the days that followed, I was held captive by these green Martians, who I came to know as Tharks. I was treated as a curiosity, and I used the opportunity to study their customs and language. I began to piece together their words, and soon found myself able to communicate with them, albeit in a limited fashion. In the course of my captivity, I discovered the Tharks' brutal nature and their disdain for weakness. I knew that my survival hinged on proving my worth to these fearsome beings. Through a combination of cunning and the physical prowess afforded by the planet's lower gravity, I earned their grudging respect. My life on Mars had begun in earnest, and I could not help but marvel at the strange turn of events that had brought me to this distant world. I had left the familiar plains of Arizona behind and now found myself immersed in a culture and landscape as alien as any I could have imagined. Yet, as I adjusted to life among the Tharks, I could not shake the feeling that my destiny was intertwined with this strange new world. In time, I would come to understand the depth of that connection as I embarked upon a journey that would forever change not only my life but the fate of an entire planet. For Mars, this red world that I now called home, held a secret that would draw me into its heart, a secret as old as the planet itself and as beautiful as the most exquisite gemstone. Chapter 7. Child Raising on Mars. As I became more deeply immersed in Martian society, I grew increasingly curious about the customs and practices that define their culture. One aspect that particularly intrigued me was the Tharks' approach to child rearing, which stood in stark contrast to the familiar traditions of Earth. Unlike on my home planet, the green Martians of Barsoom did not form traditional family units. Upon birth, Thark children were taken from their biological parents and placed in communal incubators, where they would remain until they were deemed ready to join society. These incubators, massive structures that resembled ancient temples, housed thousands of eggs at various stages of development, each one tended to by a dedicated group of caretakers. It was Sola, my newfound friend and ally, who first introduced me to the concept of Thark child rearing. She led me to one of the incubators, guiding me through the labyrinthine halls filled with row upon row of eggs. As we walked, she explained the process by which the Tharks determined the fate of their young. Once the eggs had reached a certain level of maturity, they were subjected to a series of tests to evaluate their strength, agility, and intelligence. Those that passed these tests would be welcomed into Thark society, where they would be assigned to a warrior or caretaker based on their individual aptitudes. Those that failed, however, were deemed unfit to join their ranks and were cast out, left to fend for themselves in the harsh Martian wilderness. I found this practice both fascinating and troubling, as it stood in stark contrast to the loving, nurturing environment in which I had been raised. While I understood the necessity of cultivating a society of strong, capable individuals, I could not help but mourn for the young Tharks who had been deemed unworthy of their people's care. As Sola and I continued to explore the incubator, I became increasingly aware of the weight of responsibility that rested upon the caretaker's shoulders. The fate of an entire generation lay in their hands, and I could see the solemn determination etched upon their faces as they went about their duties. It was during our visit to the incubator that I first encountered a young Thark named Dodor Sojit, a spirited and precocious child who had recently graduated from the egg stage. Despite his youth, I could see the spark of intelligence in his eyes, and I felt an instant connection with the young Martian. Over time, I took it upon myself to mentor Dodor Sojit, imparting to him the wisdom and knowledge I had gained during my time on Barsoom. In doing so, I began to see the value in the Tharks' approach to child rearing, as it allowed for the cultivation of a strong, capable society capable of withstanding the harsh realities of life on Mars. As the days turned to weeks, I continued to forge new relationships and deepen my understanding of Martian culture. I learned not only about their methods of raising children, but also about the intricacies of their political system, the complexities of their religious beliefs, and the nuances of their language and customs. Through it all, I remained steadfast in my quest for a way home, driven by an unquenchable desire to return to the life I had left behind. But as I delved deeper into the heart of Martian society, I would soon discover that the path to my ultimate goal was far more treacherous than I had ever imagined. For the secrets of Mars were closely guarded, and the price of uncovering them would be higher than I could have ever anticipated. Chapter 8. I Fare Captive from the Sky. As my knowledge of Martian culture and customs grew, so too did my reputation among the Tharks. My bond with Wohler, my skill in battle, and my willingness to learn from my newfound friends earned me a measure of respect that I could scarcely have imagined when I first set foot on the Red Planet. Yet, despite my growing connection to the Tharks and the world of Barsoom, I could not forget the ultimate goal that drove me: the search for a way to return to Earth. Fate, however, had other plans. One day, as I stood upon the ramparts of the Thark fortress, my gaze was drawn to the sky by the approach of a strange craft. It was unlike anything I had ever seen, a gleaming vessel that seemed to defy the very laws of gravity as it sailed through the Martian air. As the craft drew closer, I realized that it was not of Thark design but belonged to the Red Martians, a race of people whose existence I had only recently become aware of. Their culture and technology were far more advanced than that of the Green Martians, and I could not help but wonder what purpose had brought them to this remote corner of Barsoom. The answer soon became apparent, as the vessel was struck by a volley of Thark projectiles, causing it to plummet towards the ground. The Tharks, ever eager for battle, rushed to the crash site, intent on claiming the spoils of their victory. I followed, curious to learn more about these mysterious visitors from the skies. As we approached the wreckage, I saw a figure emerge from the smoking ruin, her regal bearing and ethereal beauty instantly marking her as someone of great importance. Her name was Dejah Thoris, a princess of the Red Martians, and her capture by the Tharks would set in motion a chain of events that would forever alter the course of Martian history. The Tharks, seeing in her capture an opportunity to strengthen their position against their red-skinned rivals, wasted no time in taking her captive. Dejah Thoris was brought before their leader, where she was questioned and threatened, her proud defiance only serving to further incense her captors. Despite my growing connection to the Tharks and my understanding of their warrior culture, I could not stand idle by as this proud and beautiful woman was subjected to their cruel treatment. I vowed to protect her, even if it meant risking the fragile alliance I had forged with my Martian allies. In the days that followed, I found myself drawn to Dejah Thoris, her intelligence, courage, and dignity captivating me as no other had. As we spent time together, I began to learn more about the Red Martians and their rich, complex society, discovering that they held the key to many of the secrets I sought. Yet, even as our bond grew stronger, I could not forget the dangers that surrounded us. The Tharks were a fierce and unpredictable people, and I knew that Dejah Thoris' life hung in the balance each day she remained their captive. As we navigated the treacherous landscape of Martian politics and intrigue, I began to formulate a plan for our escape. Together with Sola and Tarkas, we would attempt the impossible, a daring flight from the heart of Thark territory, in search of the answers that would ultimately decide the fate of not only Dejah Thoris but of all the people of Barsoom. Our journey would take us to the farthest reaches of the Red Planet, through danger and betrayal, love and loss. And as we ventured forth into the unknown, I would soon discover that the path that had led me to Barsoom was far more complex and intricate than I could have ever imagined. With each passing day, our plan took shape, as we gathered information, resources, and allies that would aid us in our quest for freedom. We worked tirelessly, knowing that the consequences of failure were dire, not just for ourselves but for the countless others who would be affected by the outcome of our struggle. In the shadows of the Thark fortress, we forged bonds of loyalty and trust that would be tested in the crucible of battle. We knew that our journey would be fraught with peril, but we also knew that we could not turn back. The fate of Dejah Thoris, and indeed, the future of all Martian kind, rested upon our shoulders. As we prepared to embark upon our great adventure, I could not help but reflect upon the incredible journey that had led me to this moment. From the dusty plains of Arizona to the crimson sands of Barsoom, I had traveled farther than any Earthman had ever gone, discovering a world of wonder, danger, and passion that had forever changed the course of my destiny. And as I stood on the precipice of the greatest challenge of my life, I knew that my fate was irrevocably intertwined with that of Dejah Thoris and the people of Barsoom. For in the end, the path that had led me to Mars was not simply a quest for a way home, but a journey to the very heart of what it meant to be human, to love, to fight, and to sacrifice for a cause greater than oneself. As we set forth into the unknown, I knew that the trials that lay before us would test our courage, our strength, and our devotion to one another. But in the face of adversity, we would stand united, our love for each other and for the people of Barsoom giving us the strength to overcome even the most insurmountable of odds. And as we ventured forth into the heart of darkness, we would carry with us the hope of a brighter future. A future in which the people of Barsoom would be united not by fear or hatred but by the bonds of love, friendship, and a shared destiny that transcended the stars themselves. Chapter 10: Champion and Chief. Our escape from the Thark stronghold marked the beginning of a new chapter in my life on Barsoom. It was not long before circumstances forced me to engage in combat once again, this time to protect Dejah, Thoris, and my newfound allies from a roving band of hostile Green Martians. In the ensuing battle, I displayed the skills I had acquired on this strange planet, utilizing my earthborn strength and agility to their fullest extent. As I fought alongside Tarkas, the noble Green Martian warrior who had become my friend and mentor, I was determined to prove my worth as a champion and leader among our small group. The ferocity of the battle pushed us to our limits, but ultimately, we emerged victorious, our enemies vanquished by our combined might. The events of that day forged an unbreakable bond between Tarkas and me, cementing our alliance and trust in one another. In the aftermath of the battle, The green Martians who had fought against us, now leaderless and in awe of my abilities, recognized me as their new chieftain. With the support of Tarkas, I accepted the role, understanding that this position of power and influence would be crucial in my efforts to unite the peoples of Barsoom and secure the freedom and safety of Dejah Thoris. As chief, I sought to lead by example, demonstrating the virtues of honor, compassion, and cooperation, which I believed would bring about lasting change on Mars. I strove to foster unity among the green and red Martians, encouraging them to set aside their age-old enmities and work together towards a common goal. Under my guidance, our ragtag group of rebels grew into a formidable fighting force, one that could stand against the might of the most powerful Martian tribes. As we traveled across the vast Martian landscape, encountering new dangers and challenges at every turn, our reputation spread far and wide, striking fear into the hearts of our enemies and hope into the hearts of those who longed for a brighter future. Yet, despite my growing influence and power, I could not forget the ultimate goal of our mission: the rescue of Dejah Thoris from the clutches of her captors. I knew that every day we spent on the run, her life was in ever greater danger, and I was driven by an unrelenting sense of urgency to see her safe and free once more. As our journey continued, I was forced to make difficult decisions and face the harsh realities of leadership on this war-torn planet. I learned that to be a true champion and chief, one must be prepared to make sacrifices and bear the weight of responsibility that comes with such a position. Through it all, I was buoyed by the support and friendship of Tarkas and the other members of our group, who trusted and believed in me despite our differences. Their loyalty and devotion filled me with a sense of purpose and determination, inspiring me to persevere in the face of overwhelming odds. In time, I would come to understand that my role as a leader on Barsoom extended far beyond my duties as a chief and warrior. It was my destiny to become a symbol of hope and unity for the peoples of Mars, a figure who could inspire them to look past their differences and work together towards a brighter, more harmonious future. As I stood on the precipice of this realization, I knew that the trials and tribulations that lay ahead would be the most challenging of my life. Yet, armed with the strength of my convictions, the support of my allies, and the love of Dejah Thoris, I was prepared to face whatever destiny had in store for me. For I was John Carter, champion and chief of Barsoom, and I would not rest until I had brought peace and unity to this wondrous, yet troubled world. Our journey took us through vast deserts and treacherous mountain ranges as we sought allies and resources to aid us in our quest. Along the way, we encountered a variety of Martian creatures, both friend and foe, each presenting unique challenges that tested our resolve and resourcefulness. Through these experiences, I continued to grow as a leader, learning the importance of diplomacy and compromise in addition to martial prowess. I discovered that true strength lay not only in physical might, but also in the ability to inspire and unite others under a common cause. As our influence spread and our ranks swelled with new recruits, I began to see the seeds of change taking root across Barsoom. Green and red Martians, who had once been bitter enemies, now fought side by side under our banner, bound by a shared vision of a better future. Yet, even as we made progress in our quest, the shadow of Dejah Thoris' captivity loomed ever larger in my mind. I knew that our ultimate success would be measured not only by our ability to unite the peoples of Mars, but also by our capacity to rescue the woman I loved from her perilous fate. With each passing day, my determination to see Dejah Thoris safe and free grew stronger, fueling my resolve to bring an end to the conflict that had plagued Barsoom for generations. I knew that our mission was far from over, and that the challenges that lay ahead would be the most daunting we had yet faced. But as I stood at the helm of our growing rebellion, surrounded by the friends and allies who had become my Martian family, I felt a surge of hope and determination that no obstacle could extinguish. Together, we would continue our quest to bring unity and peace to Barsoom, and to rescue the beloved princess of Mars from the clutches of her captors. And so, With my newfound title of champion and chief, and the unwavering support of my allies, we marched onward towards our destiny, our hearts filled with courage and the knowledge that we were the harbingers of a new era for the people of Mars, an era of unity, harmony, and hope for a brighter tomorrow. Chapter 12. A Prisoner with Power. Our campaign to unite the peoples of Barsoom had not gone unnoticed by our enemies. Though we had made significant progress, we knew that the true test of our resolve would come when we faced the most powerful and influential factions on the planet. In an unfortunate turn of events, our party was captured by the forces of a powerful Martian city. As prisoners, we were brought before the city's ruler, who eyed us with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. He was intrigued by my earthly origins and my growing reputation as a leader of the Martian rebellion. Despite our captivity, I found that my status as an outsider and a warrior gave me a certain degree of influence and leverage. The ruler, wary of the growing unrest and the potential consequences of my execution, decided to keep me alive, hoping to use me as a bargaining chip in his negotiations with the other city-states. As a prisoner with power, I sought to exploit this precarious position to further our cause. I used my influence to gain access to the city's political elite, winning their trust and respect through a combination of diplomacy, cunning, and my prowess as a warrior. Slowly but surely, I began to turn the tide of opinion in our favor, sowing the seeds of dissent among the city's leaders and fostering a growing sense of unity and cooperation between the various factions. I knew that our ultimate goal of uniting Barsoom would require the support of such powerful allies, and I was determined to seize this opportunity to advance our cause. Meanwhile, Dejah, Thoris, and our comrades had been imprisoned separately, and I knew that it was only a matter of time before their captors discovered our true intentions. I made it my mission to orchestrate their escape, all the while maintaining the delicate balance of power that I had managed to establish within the city's ruling class. Through a combination of stealth, cunning, and a few well-placed allies, I managed to free Dejah, Thoris, and our comrades from their cells, reuniting our party and once again taking up the mantle of leadership in our quest to unite Barsoom. As we made our daring escape from the city, our actions ignited a spark of rebellion among its citizens. The seeds of unity that I had sown during my captivity began to take root, and we found ourselves at the head of a growing army of Martian warriors, all bound by a shared vision of a peaceful and united Barsoom. Our escape from the city marked a turning point in our campaign, as our growing influence and the support of our new allies allowed us to challenge the existing power structures on the planet. No longer were we a band of rebels fighting against insurmountable odds. We were now a force to be reckoned with, one that had the potential to reshape the course of Martian history. As we continued our journey across the unforgiving landscape of Barsoom, our hearts filled with hope and determination, I knew that the path ahead would be fraught with danger and uncertainty. But with Dejah, Thoris by my side, and the support of our ever-growing coalition of allies, I was confident that we had the power to overcome any obstacle and bring lasting peace and unity to the people of Mars. Chapter 15. Sola tells me her story. In the quiet moments that followed our victory, when the dust had settled and the cheers of the crowd had faded, I found myself drawn to the quiet and mysterious figure of Sola. Throughout our journey, she had been a steadfast companion, her loyalty unwavering even in the most trying of times. And yet, her past remained a mystery to me, her history shrouded in a veil of silence and sadness. One evening, as we sat by the flickering light of a campfire, the stars of the Martian sky twinkling above, I asked Sola to share her story with me. She hesitated at first, her eyes downcast and her hands fidgeting with the delicate fabric of her robe. But as I pressed her gently, assuring her of my desire to understand and to offer my friendship, she relented and began to speak. Her voice was soft and tinged with sadness as she recounted the tale of her birth and the unusual circumstances that had marked her from the very beginning. Born of a union between two members of rival Martian tribes, Sola had been raised in secret, her very existence a testament to the forbidden love that had brought her parents together. As she grew, Sola learned to navigate the complexities of Martian society, her heritage a secret that she guarded fiercely. Though her life was marked by hardship and sorrow, her spirit remained unbroken, her desire for knowledge and understanding a flame that burned bright within her. She told me of her first encounter with Dejah Thoris, the princess whose beauty and courage had captured the hearts of all who knew her. The two had formed an unlikely bond, their shared experiences and the secret of Sola's heritage creating a connection that transcended the barriers of tribe and caste. As Sola's tale unfolded, I found myself moved by her resilience and her capacity for love and forgiveness. Her life had been marked by pain and loss, but she had risen above it all, her spirit undiminished by the trials she had faced. When Sola had finished her story, we sat in silence, the fire casting flickering shadows across our faces as the night deepened around us. I felt a newfound respect and admiration for my companion, her tale of sorrow and hope resonating deep within me. Sola, I said softly, your story is one of courage and determination, of love and sacrifice. It is an honor to know you and to count you as a friend. She looked at me, her eyes shining with unshed tears, and nodded. Thank you, John Carter, she whispered. It is an honor to stand by your side as well. As we gazed up at the stars that filled the Martian sky, I knew that Sola's story had become a part of my own. Her tale of love and loss, of hope and determination, would be a source of inspiration as we continued our journey to unite the people of Barsoom and bring peace to this troubled world. In that moment, I felt a renewed sense of purpose and resolve, the knowledge of Sola's past and the bond we shared fueling my determination to see our mission through to its end. For the sake of Sola, Dejah Thoris, and all the people of Mars, I would not falter or fail. Together, we would face the challenges that lay ahead and forge a new future for Barsoom, one built on unity, love, and hope. Chapter 16. The Confrontation with Tal Hayuz. As our alliance grew stronger, the time came for us to confront Tal Hayuz, the despotic ruler of the Tarkas. With the help of our newfound allies and the unyielding determination of Dejah Thoris, Tarkas, and myself, we prepared to challenge the Jedik's authority and put an end to his cruel reign. We infiltrated the Tark stronghold, the very heart of our enemy's power, and moved with stealth and precision through its shadowy corridors. We knew that our actions would undoubtedly lead to a violent confrontation, but we were resolute in our quest for justice. As we approached the throne room, the air was heavy with tension, a palpable force that seemed to whisper of the impending battle. We had but one chance to succeed, and the weight of our mission pressed down upon us like the crushing grip of a giant hand. With a silent signal, we burst into the chamber, our weapons at the ready. The startled guards, caught off guard by our sudden appearance, were quickly overwhelmed and disarmed. Our presence could no longer be ignored, and as we stood before the throne of Tal Hayuz, the final confrontation loomed before us. The Jedik, a monstrous figure of cold cruelty and unbridled power, regarded us with a mix of fury and amusement. He seemed to relish the prospect of a challenge, a twisted smile playing at the corners of his cruel mouth. "You dare to challenge me, the Jeddak of the Tharks," he roared, his voice echoing through the chamber like the crack of thunder. "You, who are nothing but a ragtag band of traitors and misfits, led by an Earthman and a red Martian princess. You have sealed your fate with your insolence." Tarkas stepped forward, his eyes blazing with righteous anger. "It is you, tall Hayus, who have sealed your fate by your cruelty and oppression," he proclaimed, his voice steady and unwavering. "We have come to put an end to your tyranny and bring about a new era of peace and prosperity for our people." With a roar of rage, tall Hayus leaped from his throne, his immense form towering over us as he charged forward. The battle had begun, and we fought with every ounce of our strength and determination, knowing that the future of Barsoom hung in the balance. The throne room echoed with the sounds of clashing blades and fierce battle cries, as we fought to vanquish our formidable foe. Despite his immense size and brute strength, tall Hayus began to falter beneath the relentless onslaught of our united front. Finally, as the battle raged on, Tarkas and I managed to corner the Jeddak, our weapons poised for the final, fatal blow. Sensing his imminent defeat, tall Hayus attempted to strike a bargain, offering us power and wealth beyond our wildest dreams in exchange for his life. But we would not be swayed by such base temptations. We had come to end his reign of terror, and that was precisely what we intended to do. With a swift, decisive blow, Tarkas struck down the Jeddak, his body crumpling to the ground in a lifeless heap. As the dust settled and the reality of our victory began to sink in, a hush fell over the throne room. We had succeeded in our mission, and with the fall of Tall Hayus, a new era dawned for the people of Barsoom. With the support of our allies and the unbreakable bond forged between Dejah Thoris, Tarkas, and myself, we set about the monumental task of rebuilding and reshaping the Thark society. The oppressive rule of Tall Hayus had left a deep and lasting scar on the people, and it would take time, patience, and unwavering dedication to heal those wounds. Dejah Thoris, ever the embodiment of grace and wisdom, proved to be an invaluable asset in our efforts to unite the Tharks and bring about lasting change. Her keen intellect and diplomatic skill were instrumental in forging new alliances and inspiring hope in the hearts of the once dispirited Thark population. Tarkas, having demonstrated his strength, courage, and unyielding commitment to the betterment of his people, was named the new Jeddak of the Tharks. Under his rule, the Thark society began to shift away from its brutal and oppressive past, embracing a more just and equitable future. As for me, I found myself drawn ever closer to Dejah Thoris, her unwavering courage and indomitable spirit captivating my heart like a beacon in the darkness. Together, we faced the challenges that lay before us, our love for one another an unbreakable bond that would guide us through the trials and tribulations that awaited us on the desolate plains of Barsoom. Though our journey had been fraught with danger and heartache, the fall of Tall Hayus marked the beginning of a new chapter in the storied history of Mars. It was a chapter filled with hope, unity, and the promise of a brighter future for all the inhabitants of this war-torn world. And as we stood together, our hearts filled with the knowledge that our actions had helped to shape a better world, we knew that we had but scratched the surface of the great adventure that awaited us on the red plains of Barsoom. Chapter 17. A Costly Recapture. After our daring escape from the Warhoon camp, we were filled with a sense of relief and freedom. However, that feeling was short-lived. We knew that the Warhoons would not sit idle by and allow us to slip away unchallenged. We needed to make haste and seek refuge among the Tharks, who, under the leadership of Tarkas, had pledged their loyalty and support. As we traversed the vast Martian landscape, I could not help but admire Dejah Thoris's indomitable spirit. Despite the hardships she had faced, she remained a beacon of hope, strength, and resilience. Her presence was a constant reminder of the importance of our mission and the people who depended on us. Unfortunately, our journey was not without its perils. The Warhoons, determined to recapture their valuable prisoners, pursued us relentlessly. We found ourselves constantly on the move, evading capture by the narrowest of margins. Our flight from the Warhoons was fraught with danger and fatigue, but our resolve to reach safety remained unbroken. One fateful day, as we sought shelter in a cave to rest our weary bodies, our worst fears came to pass. A group of Warhoons, who had tracked us with relentless tenacity, ambushed us. Caught off guard and outnumbered, we fought valiantly, but the odds were against us. Despite our best efforts, we were recaptured and once again fell into the clutches of our enemies. Bound and dragged back to the Warhoon camp, we were paraded before the jeering crowd as trophies of war. The Warhoon chieftain, a cruel and sadistic creature named Kova, took perverse pleasure in our capture. He ordered us to be thrown into a dark, dank cell to await our fates, which would undoubtedly be brutal and merciless. Separated from our friends and allies, Dejah, Thoris, and I were left to ponder our circumstances. We had come so far, only to be recaptured and face the very real possibility of death at the hands of our enemies. The weight of our failure bore heavily upon us, and we could not help but feel a sense of despair. Yet, even in our darkest hour, the flame of hope refused to be extinguished. Dejah, Thoris, ever the beacon of strength and courage, reminded me that we had faced and overcome impossible odds before, and that we could do so again. Our love for one another, and our unwavering commitment to our cause, would be our guiding lights through the trials that lay ahead. As we huddled together in the cold darkness of our prison cell, we vowed that we would not allow the Warhoons to break our spirits. We would fight to the bitter end, using every ounce of strength and cunning at our disposal to once again escape the clutches of our captors and continue our mission to bring peace and unity to the war-torn plains of Barsoom. And so, with our hearts filled with determination and our minds focused on the task at hand, we began to plot our next daring escape. Little did we know that the challenges that lay ahead would test us in ways we could never have imagined, pushing us to the very limits of our endurance and forcing us to confront the true depths of our courage and resilience. Chapter 18. Chained in Warhoon. As the days passed in our grim captivity, Dejah, Thoris, and I sought every opportunity to devise our escape. We were painfully aware that our time was running out, for the Warhoons would not hesitate to execute us once they had grown tired of their cruel games. The guards that kept us imprisoned were fearsome creatures, their scarred faces and imposing stature a testament to their battle-hardened nature. Their eyes constantly scrutinized us, searching for any signs of rebellion or weakness that they might exploit. However, we refused to be cowed by their brutality, and we continued to nurture the flame of hope that burned within us. One evening, as the twin moons of Barsoom cast their pale glow upon the desolate landscape, fortune finally smiled upon us. A commotion in the camp drew the attention of the guards, providing us with a brief, yet crucial, window of opportunity. With our hearts pounding and our resolve steeled, we made our move. Utilizing a makeshift lockpick fashioned from a scrap of metal, I managed to unlock the chains that bound us. Silently, we crept from our cell, our hearts filled with a mixture of hope and trepidation. Each step brought us closer to freedom, yet we knew that the slightest misstep could result in our swift recapture or worse. As we navigated the labyrinthine passages of the Warhoon camp, we bore witness to the barbaric and savage nature of our captors. The air was filled with the cries of pain and anguish, a chilling reminder of the fate that awaited us should we fail in our endeavor. The oppressive weight of the Warhoon presence bore down upon us, but we pressed on, guided by the light of hope and the fierce desire for freedom. The path to liberty was fraught with danger, but we had come too far to turn back now. After what felt like an eternity, we finally reached the edge of the camp. There, standing between us and the open desert, was a lone Warhoon sentry. Our hearts raced as we prepared for the inevitable confrontation, knowing full well that our very lives hung in the balance. With a swift and practiced motion, I hurled my makeshift weapon at the guard, striking him squarely in the temple. He crumpled to the ground, unconscious but alive. We wasted no time in seizing the opportunity, and we raced into the night, leaving the Warhoon camp and our chains behind us. As the first rays of dawn illuminated the Martian horizon, we paused to survey our surroundings. The path before us was fraught with peril, but we were determined to overcome any obstacles that stood in our way. The thought of our friends and allies, waiting for our return, spurred us onward. Though our journey was far from over, we had taken the first crucial step towards reclaiming our freedom. The road ahead would be long and treacherous, but we were prepared to face whatever challenges Barsoom had in store for us. For we knew that our love for one another and our commitment to our cause would be the beacon that guided us through the darkest depths of despair and the most treacherous of trials. And so, with the vast expanse of the Martian desert stretching out before us, we set forth on our journey, the memory of our chains serving as a stark reminder of the price of failure. With our hearts filled with hope and our eyes fixed upon the horizon, we strode forth into the unknown, the promise of freedom and the fire of determination burning brightly within us. Chapter 19. Battling in the Arena. The roar of the Warhoon horde echoed through the desolate arena as Dejah, Thoris, and I stood back to back, awaiting the onslaught of our foes. In this dire moment, I knew our only chance of survival lay in the strength of our united arms, the fire of our defiance, and the ferocity of our will to live. With a guttural war cry, the Warhoon warriors charged toward us, weapons raised and hungering for blood. I gripped my long sword tightly, my heart pounding with adrenaline as I prepared to meet them head-on. The princess, brave and unyielding, held her dagger at the ready, her eyes shining with an inner strength that belied her delicate frame. As the first wave of assailants neared, I swung my sword with deadly precision, cutting down one warrior after another in a blur of steel and sinew. Dejah Thoris fought with a ferocity that matched my own, her dagger a blur as it found its mark again and again. Together, we formed a whirlwind of destruction, felling our enemies and sowing chaos in their ranks. The battle raged on, our exhaustion mounting as we fought with every ounce of our being. Yet, for every Warhoon we dispatched, it seemed as though two more rose to take their place. The tide of battle threatened to overwhelm us, and I knew that our only hope lay in the intervention of the Green Martian, Tarkas, and his newfound followers. As if in answer to my silent plea, Tarkas and his loyal warriors burst into the arena, their fierce cries striking fear into the hearts of the Warhoons. With their timely arrival, the tide began to turn, and together we fought to reclaim our freedom and carve a path to victory. Even as our combined forces pushed back the Warhoon horde, I was ever mindful of the princess's safety. Though she fought with the grace and ferocity of a lioness, I knew that a single misstep could spell disaster for us both. With each passing moment, the weight of our fate and the fate of Barsoom seemed to press down upon me. But there, in the heat of battle, a new sense of determination and hope began to blossom within my heart. I knew that we had overcome impossible odds before, and we could do so again. With renewed vigor, I fought on, and with each fallen enemy, I felt our chances for survival grow. In the end, it was the indomitable spirit of Dejah Thoris, Tarkas, and our newfound allies that carried the day. As the last of the Warhoons fell, the arena fell silent, save for the labored breathing of the victorious. We stood there, battered and weary, but alive and free. With our enemies defeated, we knew that the time had come to leave the Warhoon city behind and embark upon the next chapter of our journey. As we made our way through the desolate streets, I felt a newfound sense of camaraderie with those who had fought by my side. Our shared struggle had forged bonds stronger than steel, and I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them together. As we stood at the city's edge, the vast expanse of Barsoom stretched out before us, a testament to the countless trials and tribulations we had faced and the battles we had yet to fight. But as I looked upon Dejah Thoris, her gaze locked with mine, I knew that we would find a way to overcome whatever obstacles stood in our path. For we were more than mere wanderers on a desolate world. We were champions of Barsoom, and together, we would forge a new future for our people. With renewed determination, we set out on our journey, each step bringing us closer to the destiny that awaited us. The road ahead was fraught with danger and uncertainty, but we were no strangers to adversity. The countless battles we had fought, the enemies we had vanquished, and the hardships we had endured had only served to strengthen our resolve and steel our hearts for the challenges that lay ahead. As we traversed the harsh landscape of Barsoom, we encountered wondrous sights and strange creatures that defied imagination. And with each new discovery, I marveled at the resilience and beauty of this alien world, so different from my home on Earth, and yet so achingly familiar. Through it all, the bond between Dejah Thoris and me continued to grow, fueled by our shared experiences and our unyielding belief in the promise of a brighter future for our people. In the darkest of moments, when the weight of our burdens threatened to crush us, we found solace and strength in one another. And in the heat of battle, when the odds seemed insurmountable, we fought side by side, our hearts beating as one. As our journey drew on, I found myself increasingly torn between my love for Dejah Thoris and the knowledge that my duty to my people and my planet could not be ignored. For I knew that the day would come when I would be forced to choose between the life I had built on Barsoom and the world I had left behind. But in the end, it was the unwavering strength and courage of Dejah Thoris that guided my heart and showed me the path I was meant to follow. For in her, I saw not only the Princess of Mars, but the embodiment of all that was noble and true about the people of Barsoom. And I knew that together, we could change the course of history and bring hope to a world that had known only darkness and despair. And so, as we continued our journey, I resolved to stand by her side, to fight for the future of our people, and to honor the love that had blossomed between us. For in the vast and unforgiving landscape of Barsoom, I had found not only a purpose, but a home. Thus, our tale continued, a testament to the power of love, courage, and the indomitable spirit of the human heart. In the face of adversity, we would rise to the challenge, forging a new destiny for the people of Barsoom and proving that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope. Chapter 20. In the Atmosphere Factory. As the sun rose on Barsoom, casting its ruddy light upon the desolate plains, I found myself standing on the precipice of a new and perilous adventure. Fate had led me to the very heart of the planet's life-sustaining secret. The fabled Atmosphere Factory. The ancient structure rose before us, a testament to the ingenuity and resilience of the Martian race. Within its walls, the delicate balance of life on this dying world was maintained, and with it, the hopes and dreams of an entire civilization. It was a task of monumental importance, and one that had been entrusted to a select few. As Dejah Thoris and I ventured into the depths of the factory, we were met with a labyrinthine network of corridors and chambers, each one teeming with the hum of machinery and the hiss of gas. The air was thick with the scent of industry, and the walls echoed with the whispers of 1,000 secrets, each one more closely guarded than the last. Within the heart of the factory, we discovered the inner sanctum of the operation, presided over by an ancient Martian named Tarkas. A stoic figure, he bore the weight of his responsibility with a quiet dignity, his eyes reflecting the wisdom and sorrow of countless centuries. As we stood before him, the magnitude of the task that lay before us became all too clear. It was a task that would require not only courage and resourcefulness but also an unshakable faith in the indomitable spirit of the human heart. With a solemn nod, Tarkas entrusted us with the knowledge we would need to ensure the continued survival of Barsoom. The Atmosphere Factory was in danger, he explained, its delicate mechanisms threatened by the machinations of a sinister force that's ought to bring ruin to the planet and plunge its people into darkness and despair. If we were to save Barsoom, we would need to confront this enemy head-on, venturing into the unknown and facing challenges that would test the limits of our endurance. It was a daunting prospect, but one that we could not turn away from. For the fate of an entire world rested on our shoulders, and we would not falter in our duty. With the knowledge and guidance of Tardosmers, we set to work, battling against time and our own fears to secure the future of Barsoom. Through countless trials and tribulations, we persevered, our determination fueled by the unwavering love that had blossomed between Dejah, Thoris, and me. As we toiled in the bowels of the factory, we discovered the true depths of our adversary's cunning. The factory had been sabotaged, its delicate systems thrown into disarray by a foe who knew our every move. It was a race against time, and one that we could not afford to lose. With the weight of the world upon our shoulders, we fought on, our resolve unbroken and our hearts filled with hope. The battle was fierce, the stakes impossibly high, and yet we refused to yield, for we knew that our cause was just and our love unwavering. Finally, with the last vestiges of our strength, we emerged victorious, the factory restored and the future of Barsoom secured. It was a moment of triumph and relief, and as we gazed out upon the ruddy plains that stretched out before us, we knew that we had achieved something truly remarkable. Together, Dejah, Thoris, and I had faced the greatest challenge of our lives and emerged stronger for it. And as we stood side by side in the fading light of the Martian sunset, our hearts swelled with pride and hope for the future. For in our hearts, we knew that we had not only saved the world but also forged a bond that would endure for all time. As we bade farewell to Tardosmers, he looked upon us with a mixture of gratitude and sorrow, for he knew that our time together had come to an end. Yet, in his eyes, there was also a glimmer of hope, a promise of a brighter future for Barsoom and its people. It was a gift that he had given to us, and one that we would carry with us always. As Dejah, Thoris, and I set forth on our journey back to Helium, our spirits soared with the knowledge that we had accomplished the seemingly impossible. Hand in hand, we faced the unknown, our love for one another a beacon of light in the darkness. We knew that the road ahead would be fraught with danger, and that the machinations of our enemies would not be so easily thwarted. But with the strength of our love and the wisdom of Tardosmers to guide us, we were ready to face whatever challenges the future might hold. Together, we would forge a new destiny for Barsoom, a destiny born of courage, hope, and love. And as we gazed out upon the ruddy plains that stretched out before us, our hearts swelled with the knowledge that we were truly the architects of our own fate, and that the future of our world was in our hands. For we were not only the saviors of Barsoom but also the guardians of its future, a future that would be shaped by our actions and our love. And as the sun set on the red sands of Mars, we knew that we were destined to change the course of history, and that our love would echo through the ages as a testament to the indomitable spirit of the human heart. Chapter 21. An Air Scout for Helium. Having returned to Helium, I found myself with a newfound sense of purpose. As a champion of Barsoom, I sought to use my unique abilities to benefit my adopted people. To that end, I enlisted as an air scout for Helium, my role being to patrol the skies and ensure the safety of our great city. The Air Scouts were a prestigious and vital part of Helium's military forces, and I felt honored to be among their ranks. My fellow scouts were a diverse and skilled group of warriors, each with their own stories of valor and sacrifice. Together, we formed a tight-knit brotherhood, bound by our shared duty and the knowledge that we were defenders of the Red Planet. I quickly adapted to the ways of the Air Scouts, learning to master the intricacies of their swift and agile flyers. The small, maneuverable craft were perfectly suited to my Martian-enhanced strength and agility, and I took to the skies with ease, soaring high above the red sands below. As I patrolled the skies, I reveled in the beauty of Barsoom. From my vantage point, I could see the majestic spires of helium rising proudly toward the heavens, a testament to the indomitable spirit of the Martian people. I could also see the vast oceans of red sand, the cradle of life on this ancient world, and the many strange and wondrous creatures that called it home. But even as I marveled at the splendor of my adopted world, I was ever vigilant, for I knew that danger lurked just beyond the horizon. The skies of Barsoom were filled with the airships of rival cities, and the air scouts were tasked with keeping a watchful eye on these potential foes. One day, while soaring high above the plains, I spied a lone flyer far in the distance. It was a small craft, barely a speck against the vast Martian sky, yet something about it piqued my curiosity. I decided to investigate, and I set a course to intercept the mysterious vessel. As I drew closer, I could see that the flyer bore the markings of Zodanga, a city that had long been at odds with Helium. The pilot appeared to be alone, and I could not fathom why a solitary Zodangan would venture so far from their city. With caution, I approached the Zodangan craft and hailed the pilot, demanding to know their purpose for being in Helium's airspace. The pilot, a young man with fiery eyes, responded with a sneer, claiming that he was merely scouting the area for potential resources. I was not convinced. These Zodangans were known for their cunning and deceit, and I suspected that the pilot had a far more sinister purpose. Deciding to take matters into my own hands, I swiftly maneuvered my flyer alongside the Zodangan craft, my intent clear. He would return with me to Helium to face the authorities. The young pilot had other ideas. With a snarl, he drew a radium pistol and aimed it at me, his eyes filled with a desperate defiance. I had little time to react, but my instincts and Martian strength served me well. I leaped from my flyer onto his, wrenching the weapon from his grasp and sending it spiraling into the void below. The Zodangan pilot, now disarmed and at my mercy, could do little but submit to my will. He glared at me with a mixture of fear and hatred, but I knew that I had made the right decision. Together, we returned to Helium, the rogue pilot a captive and a potential source of valuable intelligence. As we approached the city, I reflected on my role as an air scout and my duties to Helium. The skies of Barsoom were fraught with peril, and I knew that I had played a small but vital part in ensuring the safety of my adopted home. The capture of the Zodangan pilot would undoubtedly yield valuable information, and I felt a swell of pride in my contribution to the defense of the Red Planet. Upon our arrival in Helium, I handed the Zodangan captive over to the authorities. As the young pilot was led away in chains, I felt a twinge of sympathy for him. He was, after all, a product of his environment, raised in a city that valued cunning and ambition above all else. Perhaps, in different circumstances, he could have been a comrade rather than a foe. In the days that followed, the information gleaned from the captive Zodangan pilot proved invaluable. It transpired that he had been part of a larger reconnaissance mission sent by Zodanga to gather intelligence on Helium's defenses. Thanks to my actions, their plans had been thwarted, and Helium stood strong and secure. My fellow Air Scouts and the citizens of Helium hailed me as a hero, a title I accepted with humility. I knew that I was merely one man in a vast and interconnected web of warriors, all of whom played a crucial role in the defense of our beloved planet. As an Air Scout for Helium, I had found my purpose, and I vowed to continue to serve my adopted people with honor and dedication. As I continued my duties, soaring high above the red sands of Barsoom, my thoughts often returned to Dejah Thoris, the beautiful princess who had captured my heart. I knew that she was out there, somewhere on this vast and ancient world, and I held on to the hope that one day our paths would cross once more. Until that day, however, I remained committed to my role as an Air Scout, ever vigilant in the defense of Helium and the people I had come to call my own. For as long as the skies of Barsoom bore the ships of rival cities and the threat of war hung heavy in the air, I would stand as a guardian, a protector, and a champion of the Red Planet. Chapter 22. I Find Dejah. Through the winding streets of Zodanga, I sought the elusive Dejah Thoris. It was a desperate search, as the city teemed with chaos and uncertainty. I had been told she was to be found in the palace of Denkosis, but the path to her was fraught with danger. I slipped into the palace unnoticed, my heart pounding in my chest. The shadows provided my only refuge, as I moved from corridor to corridor, avoiding the piercing gaze of the guards. Fate smiled upon me, for as I rounded a corner, I caught a glimpse of the fiery red hair of my beloved princess. She was surrounded by a group of Zodangan nobles, their sneers and leers filling me with an unbridled rage. I knew I had to act, for her safety and for the future of our people. It was then that I remembered the disguise I had kept with me, the uniform of a Zodangan air scout. It was the perfect cover, and I donned it hastily, hoping it would allow me to approach Dejah Thoris without arousing suspicion. I drew near the group, affecting the air of a Zodangan soldier. The nobles paid me little heed, their focus entirely on the object of their cruel intentions. I could see the fear in Dejah Thoris' eyes, and my heart ached to alleviate her distress. When the moment was ripe, I stepped forward, feigning the salute of a loyal scout. "I beg your pardon, my lords," I interjected, "but I have urgent news for the Princess Dejah Thoris." The nobles stared at me in annoyance, but their curiosity overcame them, and they allowed me to approach. "Speak, then," commanded one of the men, his eyes narrowing in suspicion. I leaned in close to Dejah Thoris, pretending to relay a message of great import. In hushed tones, I revealed my true identity to her, my heart swelling with relief as recognition dawned in her eyes. She stifled a cry of joy, and we exchanged whispers, devising a plan to secure her escape. As the nobles grew impatient, Dejah Thoris turned to them with a cunning smile. "My lords," she announced, "I must retire to my quarters to address this urgent matter. I trust you will excuse my sudden departure." The nobles, though discontented, could hardly argue with the princess, and they grudgingly allowed her to leave. With haste, Dejah Thoris and I made our way through the palace's labyrinthine corridors, guided by the knowledge I had gleaned from my previous explorations. Our hearts raced as we stole past guards and navigated the treacherous halls, the specter of discovery lurking at every turn. At last, we reached a hidden passage leading to the outskirts of the palace. I could see the gleam of hope in Dejah Thoris' eyes, the promise of freedom within our grasp. We pressed on, our steps lighter as the weight of captivity began to lift from our shoulders. But fate is a fickle mistress, and our joy was short-lived. As we emerged from the passage, we found ourselves surrounded by a contingent of Zodangan soldiers, their weapons trained upon us. My heart sank, but I refused to surrender without a fight. With a roar, I leaped at the nearest soldier, my fists connecting with his jaw. Dejah Thoris, ever the warrior, joined the fray, her skill and ferocity a sight to behold. Together, we fought the soldiers, the desperate dance of battle a testament to our love and determination. Though we were outnumbered, our resolve was unwavering. As the last soldier fell, Dejah Thoris and I stood breathless, our limbs heavy with fatigue. But our triumph was bittersweet, for we knew that our escape had not gone unnoticed. The palace would soon be alerted to our flight, and the city would be teeming with soldiers seeking our capture. With no time to lose, we hastened toward the outskirts of Zodanga, seeking a means of escape. The streets were in chaos, but the confusion played to our advantage, allowing us to slip through the throngs of people undetected. Our hearts were heavy with the knowledge that we left behind friends and allies, but our love compelled us to forge onward. At last, we found ourselves on the edge of the city, the vast expanse of the Martian landscape stretching out before us. There, hidden among the dunes, we discovered an abandoned airship, its sleek design bearing the marks of a Zodangan craft. It was a stroke of fortune, and we wasted no time in boarding the vessel, our hearts soaring as we took to the skies. As Zodanga shrank beneath us, Dejah Thoris and I exchanged a look of quiet determination. Our love had been the catalyst for our escape, But we knew that our journey was far from over. Together, we would face the challenges that lay ahead, our bond an unbreakable force that would carry us through the trials and tribulations of our uncertain future. For now, though, we had each other, and in that moment, it was enough. The Martian winds carried us away from the city that had sought to claim us, and toward the destiny that awaited us in the wild and untamed expanse of Barsoom. Chapter 23: Lost in the Sky. As our stolen airship soared through the Barsoomian skies, Dejah, Thoris, and I marveled at the breathtaking vistas that unfurled beneath us. Our hearts swelled with hope, but we could not ignore the dangers that lay ahead. Our escape from Zodanga had been fraught with peril, and we knew that it would not be long before we would be pursued. Our first priority was to navigate the treacherous skies above the Martian wastelands. The air currents were unpredictable, and we were forced to rely on our instincts and our shared knowledge of Barsoom's geography to guide us. Dejah Thoris proved herself to be a skilled and resourceful pilot, her eyes never straying from the horizon as she steered our craft with steady hands. Despite our best efforts, however, we soon found ourselves facing a new and unforeseen challenge. A fierce sandstorm loomed on the horizon, its swirling vortex of grit and dust threatening to engulf our fragile vessel. We had no choice but to brave the tempest, clinging to one another as the airship bucked and heaved in the howling winds. The storm raged for what felt like an eternity, and when it finally abated, we found ourselves disoriented and off course. The landscape below us had been transformed, the once familiar terrain now a sea of shifting sands that bore little resemblance to the Barsoom we knew. Undaunted, we pressed on, determined to find our way back to the safety of Helium. Our journey took us across the desolate plains and through the shadowy depths of ancient Martian canyons, our progress marked by the ever-changing landscape that unfolded beneath our keel. As we ventured deeper into the uncharted reaches of Barsoom, it became increasingly clear that we were not alone in the skies. Unbeknownst to us, our escape had attracted the attention of a band of ruthless air pirates, who now trailed us with malicious intent. Though our stolen airship was swift and nimble, it was no match for the heavily armed pirate vessels that pursued us. Our only hope lay in evading our pursuers, and we found ourselves locked in a deadly game of cat and mouse among the clouds. Fate intervened once more, however, when we stumbled upon a hidden city nestled in the heart of an immense canyon. Seizing the opportunity, we steered our craft toward the sanctuary of the city's towering spires, desperate to find refuge from our relentless pursuers. The inhabitants of the hidden city were initially wary of our presence, their eyes narrowed with suspicion as they regarded our battered airship. But as we shared our tale of love and daring escape, their hearts softened, and they welcomed us into their midst. In the days that followed, we found solace in the company of these new allies, their generosity and courage a shining beacon in the darkness that had enveloped our lives. Together, we prepared for the inevitable confrontation with the air pirates who still stalked the skies beyond the city walls. When the battle finally came, it was as fierce and brutal as we had anticipated. The air echoed with the sounds of clashing swords and the roar of airship engines, the skies painted with the vibrant hues of Martian war. And through it all, Dejah, Thoris, and I fought side by side, our love an unbreakable bond that carried us through the chaos and bloodshed. At last, the air pirates were vanquished, their shattered vessels sent plummeting to the sands below. As the dust settled, Dejah, Thoris, and I embraced, our hearts pounding with the adrenaline of victory and the knowledge that we had found a sanctuary among the skies of Barsoom. Chapter 24: Tarkas finds a friend. The city that had welcomed us with open arms had become a sanctuary for Dejah, Thoris, and me, but we could not forget the friends we had left behind in our flight from Zodanga. Our thoughts turned often to Tarkas, the noble Thark who had fought by our side and become an unlikely ally in our struggle against tyranny. As we contemplated the possibility of ever seeing him again, fate intervened in the form of a messenger from the remote Takian city of Thark. The emissary arrived at the hidden city with a tale of war and upheaval that echoed our own trials, and in his words, we found a glimmer of hope. Tarkas, we learned, had become embroiled in a fierce battle for control of Thark, his leadership challenged by a ruthless and cunning Takian chieftain who sought to seize power through treachery and deceit. Despite being outnumbered and outmaneuvered, Tarkas had refused to surrender, his iron resolve bolstered by his unwavering loyalty to his people. The news of Tarkas' plight stirred our hearts, and we resolved to aid him in his struggle. With the support of our newfound allies, Dejah, Thoris, and I set out for Thark, our airship once more taking to the skies as we embarked on a desperate mission to save our friend. As we drew near to the beleaguered city, we beheld a sight that filled us with both dread and awe. The forces arrayed against Tarkas were vast and formidable, their legions stretching as far as the eye could see. But amidst the teeming hordes of warriors, we could see the unmistakable figure of Tarkas, his towering form standing tall and defiant in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. Descending from the skies, we joined the battle, our airship's guns blazing as we fought to turn the tide in Tarkas' favor. The ferocity of our assault took the enemy by surprise, and as their ranks wavered, Tarkas rallied his warriors, his mighty voice echoing across the battlefield as he called upon them to stand firm against the onslaught. The tide of battle shifted slowly but inexorably in our favor, our combined forces gradually pushing back the enemy until they were forced to retreat. As the dust settled and the clamor of war faded, Tarkas stood victorious, his leadership cemented and his people united once more under his rule. In the aftermath of the battle, we were reunited with Tarkas, our joy at seeing him again tempered by the knowledge of the sacrifices that had been made to secure his victory. But in the midst of the bloodshed and turmoil, we had found a true friend, a bond that transcended the boundaries of race and culture and had been forged in the fires of adversity. With Tarkas secure in his position as Jeddak of Thark, we bade him farewell, our hearts heavy with the knowledge that our paths might never cross again. But as we took to the skies once more, bound for the sanctuary of the hidden city, we knew that our friendship would endure, a testament to the indomitable spirit of the Barsoomian people. As our airship soared above the Martian landscape, Dejah, Thoris, and I looked out over the world that had become our home, our hearts filled with a mixture of pride and sorrow. Our journey had been one of love and loss, of victory and defeat, and as we gazed upon the vast expanse of Barsoom, we could not help but wonder what the future held for us and for the people of this strange and wondrous land. Together, we had faced unimaginable dangers and overcome seemingly insurmountable odds, and in the process, we had forged unbreakable bonds with those who had fought beside us. And though our journey had been marked by hardship and heartache, we knew that the love we shared would sustain us through whatever trials lay ahead. As we continued our flight, our thoughts turned to the future, to the prospect of building a life together in the safety of the hidden city. It would not be without its challenges, but with Dejah, Thoris by my side, I knew that we could face whatever obstacles lay before us. For now, however, we were content to savor the respite that had been granted to us, our hearts filled with gratitude for the friendships we had forged and the love that had blossomed amidst the turmoil and strife of our journey across Barsoom. And as our airship sped across the Martian sky, we knew that we had found a home among the stars, a refuge where our love could flourish and where we could, at last, find peace. The end of our journey had brought us full circle, our fate entwined with the people of Barsoom and the destiny of the planet we had come to call our home. And as we gazed out over the vast expanse of the Martian landscape, our hearts filled with hope and determination, we knew that together, we would face whatever the future held, bound by our love and the indomitable spirit that defined the people of this strange and wondrous world. Chapter 25. The Looting of Zodanga. With the fall of the city of Zodanga, the balance of power on Barsoom shifted dramatically. No longer would the people of Helium cower in fear of their aggressive neighbor. The victory, hard-won through the bravery and cunning of Tarkas, Dejah, Thoris, and myself, signaled the dawn of a new era for the planet. However, the liberation of Zodanga came with a heavy price. The once thriving city was now in ruins, its riches plundered by the conquering forces. The streets were littered with the remnants of the fierce battle that had taken place, a stark reminder of the cost of war. As I walked through the city with Tarkas and Dejah Thoris, I could not help but feel a sense of unease. The desolation that surrounded us was a grim testament to the destruction that war inevitably brought. Despite our victory, I could not help but wonder if there might have been a better way to bring peace to Barsoom, one that did not involve such devastation and loss. As we made our way through the city, we stumbled upon a group of green Martians engaged in the looting of a once grand Zodanga mansion. The sight of these warriors, their arms laden with ill-gotten spoils, was a disheartening one. While I understood the desire for retribution against these Zodangans, I could not condone the destruction of the city and the suffering of its people. Tarkas, sensing my disquiet, placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "It is the way of Barsoom, my friend," he said solemnly. "War is the lifeblood of our planet, and its spoils are the reward for those who survive." Dejah Thoris, ever the voice of reason and compassion, added, "Yet we must not forget that there are those who suffer in the wake of our victory. We must do what we can to help them rebuild, and in doing so, perhaps we can begin to heal the wounds that have long divided our people." It was a sentiment I could not argue with, and I resolved then and there to do what I could to aid in the recovery of Zodanga and its people. As we continued our exploration of the city, we endeavored to bring aid and comfort to those we encountered, offering assistance to the injured and helping to distribute food and supplies to those in need. In the days that followed, word of our efforts spread, and we were soon joined by others, both green and red Martians, who shared our vision of a better Barsoom. Together, we set about the monumental task of rebuilding Zodanga, brick by brick and street by street, determined to restore the city to its former glory. As we worked side by side with the people of Zodanga, I began to see the seeds of change taking root. For the first time, I saw red and green Martians united in a common cause, their differences forgotten in the face of a shared goal. It was a sight that filled me with hope, and I knew that our efforts, however small, were helping to forge a new path for the people of Barsoom. In time, the city of Zodanga began to rise from the ashes, its shattered buildings and ravaged streets slowly giving way to new structures and a sense of order. The people, once downtrodden and demoralized, now worked together with renewed purpose and determination, fueled by the belief that a brighter future was possible. As I stood on the ramparts of the restored palace, surveying the city that had been transformed before my very eyes, I felt a swell of pride in my heart. It was not just the physical reconstruction of Zodanga that I was witnessing, but also the birth of a new era of unity and understanding between the races of Barsoom. The once insurmountable barriers that had separated red and green Martians seemed to be crumbling, replaced by the bonds of friendship and cooperation. Dejah Thoris stood by my side, her eyes shining with hope and determination as she gazed out over the city. "We have done much, John Carter," she said softly, "but there is still much more to be done. Together, we can create a better world for all the people of Barsoom." Tarkas joined us, his towering form casting a long shadow over the sunlit terrace. "Today, we celebrate the rebirth of Zodanga and the promise of a brighter future. Tomorrow, we continue our quest for peace and understanding, not just for ourselves, but for all the inhabitants of our beloved planet." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting its final golden rays over the city of Zodanga, I felt a renewed sense of purpose and determination. The road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, but with allies like Dejah Thoris and Tarkas at my side, I knew that we would prevail. Together, we would forge a new destiny for Barsoom, one built on the foundations of peace, unity, and understanding. And though the scars of war might never truly fade, the people of Zodanga and all of Barsoom would learn to heal, and in time, to prosper. With hope in our hearts and the promise of a better tomorrow on our lips, we turned our gaze to the future, determined to create a world where the darkness of the past was but a distant memory, and the light of progress and understanding shone brightly upon the path ahead. Chapter 26: Through Carnage to Joy. The final conflict was upon us. The combined forces of Helium and the Tharks stood at the ready, prepared to face the remnants of the Zodangan army. We were an unstoppable tide, fueled by the fire of our convictions and the hope for a peaceful future. Dejah Thoris, resplendent in her warrior's armor, stood beside me, her countenance a mix of determination and sorrow. She knew the cost of war, but also understood the necessity of ending the Zodangan threat once and for all. As we prepared to engage the enemy, Tarkas approached, his eyes filled with the fire of battle. This day, we will end the tyranny of Zodanga and usher in a new era of peace for all Barsoom, he declared. His booming voice resonated through the ranks, filling our hearts with renewed courage. With a fierce battle cry, we charged toward the enemy, the sands beneath our feet trembling with the force of our advance. These Zodangan soldiers stood little chance against our combined might, but they fought with the desperation of those who knew their end was near. The battle raged on, blood staining the sands and cries of pain and triumph filling the air. Slowly, inexorably, these Zodangan forces were pushed back, their defenses crumbling beneath our relentless assault. As we closed in on the enemy's final stronghold, a massive explosion shook the battlefield, sending plumes of smoke and debris into the sky. The Zodangan commander had chosen to destroy his own stronghold rather than face defeat, a final act of defiance against those who sought to end his rule. In the aftermath of the explosion, a hush fell over the battlefield. We stood victorious, but the cost had been high. Many brave warriors had fallen, their sacrifices ensuring a brighter future for all Barsoom. In the midst of the carnage, Dejah Thoris and I embraced, our tears mingling as we grieved for the lives lost and the terrible price of victory. But amidst the sorrow, there was also joy, for we had succeeded in our mission, and the dream of a unified and peaceful Barsoom was one step closer to becoming a reality. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting its final rays of light upon the battlefield, we began the somber task of tending to the fallen. Red and green Martians alike were laid to rest with honor, their sacrifices immortalized in the annals of Barsoomian history. In the days that followed, the people of Barsoom began the slow process of rebuilding, forging new bonds of friendship and cooperation as they worked together to heal the scars of war. The road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, but the dream of a peaceful and united Barsoom had become a beacon of hope, guiding us all toward a brighter future. And as Dejah Thoris and I stood hand in hand, gazing out upon the world we had fought so hard to change, we knew that the joy we found amidst the carnage of battle would sustain us through whatever trials lay ahead. Together, we would face the future with courage and determination, building a world where the darkness of the past was but a distant memory, and the light of peace and understanding shone brightly upon the path before us.
Thank you for listening to Miniature Masterpiece. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more awesome content.